Greetings and salutations for all of you who are at home, and this also includes those who might be absent. So this is actually a very good thing for me to do because it's a good little reminder for people who are going to be absent or forgetful and want to go back over note sets again. So, I mean, here you go. Especially for those who are at home, though, on the given days that we're doing note sets, they're going to be the same exact thing. I will say the same exact things that I will in class. I just may not have anybody answering any of my questions. So you just need to make sure that you stay up to date on your stuff. And as I said, I will alternate days in which I do note sets. We are slowing things down. Some days might just be study days, especially on like Wednesdays. Try not to drop too much on you. You know, if we're going a little bit slower, well, we're going to try and do the best that we can through all of this. And hopefully it all works out for the best. But like always, you have got to be responsible for what you are doing. If you do not stay on top of your stuff, then I mean, that's going to be problematic for everybody, including me too, because it ends up giving me extra work waiting on your stuff to get done. So just get your stuff done. Do it when you're supposed to do it. Don't wait till it piles up and then actually start working on it. So your note set for today is going to be on the decline of Rome. The decline of Rome. So let's start this bad boy up. All right, so I'm not sure why my picture is so gigantic on here. I don't know if I can I fix that? Let's fix that. Because I don't know why it just blew up on me. It's too big. There we go. Let's move this over and make it a little more beautiful. Here, it looks, yeah, crooked. But anyways, that's better. Let's try this again. And voila, I'm talented. All right, so the fall of Rome. So there's an old saying that Rome was not built in a day. Now, that's true as we have talked about the history of Rome because, well, it really wasn't built in a day. It took centuries for them to actually get to where they were powerful. And they were powerful, quite powerful. World power dominated the Mediterranean. But at the same time, the flip side of that saying is that Rome doesn't fall in a day either. So it's not like one day one bad thing happened and then magically, boom, Rome falls apart. So actually, it's a series of things that stack up upon Rome. Very similar to what we talked about with Greece and with, you'll talk next year about with the British colonies in the United States, is it's not one thing, it's a snowball effect. So if you think of a snowball on a hill, it starts little and it rolls down, bigger, 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 bigger. And so by the time it's not at the end of the hill, there's not much you can do about it other than get out of its way. It's going to roll you over. So same thing happens here for Rome, that it's not just one thing. If it's one thing, then, you know, you could probably fix it. You can deal with it. But when it starts to be things that are added one on top of the other, that's when the problems occur. So the big thing here, though, is political and social problems. Political, obviously, meaning politics and government. Social, meaning with people dealing with things on an everyday basis. It could be jobs, it could be economics, it could be family related. So here's the major point of this. Is it really all starts with leadership. Anytime a government, a civilization, a state, a country goes down is because of poor leadership in some fashion. So if we look at this from AD 235 to 285, how many years is that? 50 years, you're right. Rome had 22 emperors. So here's where the math comes in. 50 years, 22 emperors. What's the average stay for these emperors? It's like 2 years, 2.2 months. I don't know. I'm not good at the fraction part. But anyway, it's like 2 years per emperor. And so if you're like 60-year-old Roman, you've had all these different emperors for a long period of time. And you say, well, what about the US? Well, the US, you know, we have elections every 4 years. So we're automatically double that time period anyways, and some presidents can stay for 8 years. So, you know, in a 50-year period, the minimum amount of presidents that you would have is, you know, 6 times 8. 6 of them serving 4 years each, and 6 times 8 is 48. Yes, 48. So anyways, so we haven't really ever had a run like this in U.S. history. And here's what the problem is obviously these guys are pretty bad. Now, granted, some guys had a longer stay than others, and some were really, really short. So you have all these emperors who might want to do different things or throw in different reforms. And so that gets to be a problem. So some problems that occurred during this time period were bribery. People refused to pay taxes and you had too many slaves. So let's look at each of these. Bribery is when you pay somebody under the table to do bad things, paying off government officials for different things, paying off law enforcement for turning the other cheek, or turning, I guess not to the other cheek, but turning their eyes away from things that are happening. People refusing to pay taxes. Well, government needs their taxes, so you don't pay your taxes and you'll get things for your state or your nation. And too many slaves all around can be problematic too. So all of these issues, I mean, again, if it's one, you can deal with it. If it's three, well, that's quite a bit, and it keeps going. In the military, Rome got too big too fast, as they had to count on soldiers from other places to maintain the order in these places where they were ruling. And again, that's problematic. The soldiers grew restless and the order breaks down within their groups. Businesses start to close. Farmers grew less food. And then a plague kills 1 in 10 people in the empire. Now, don't start thinking, oh, this sounds like what we're doing today. We hope not. I mean, a couple of these things are very, coincidental, I suppose, but I mean, you can honestly think about what it's doing to our country today. I mean, again, not to the scale of Rome, but we are having places closed down. We are having not necessarily a plague, but problems with coronavirus. And is it causing economic problems? Absolutely. Is it causing social problems? Yeah, absolutely. And so we can see a little bit, almost like a little microcosm of the stuff that Rome was going through, because I mean, this isn't stuff that we're enjoying right now. So certainly Rome is not enjoying theirs either. And Rome starts to suffer from what's called inflation. Now, it doesn't mean someone's blowing on them like a balloon and growing it up, but that means that their prices are increasing like inflation, like the prices are getting bigger on things. And if you think about it, if the farmers are growing less food, then the food that they do have is pretty valuable. And so people are vying for this food at high or elevated prices. Again, there's your economic problem. So economically, socially, governmentally, militaristically, now you have 4 big areas where problems are occurring. That's going to be very tough for Rome to have to deal with. And then we throw in, again, people stop using their money, Roman currency, and they start to barter again, which is exchanging goods. Again, this is not awful if you are someone who can make goods and then people want your goods and you can exchange them for other things. But if you think about it, Rome got away from that so that because people could just buy what they wanted to, they didn't have to have anything in trade. But now that they're going back to the bartering system, if you want something, you got to have something in trade. So most people don't have that. Think if we went to that today, like a lot of us would be in trouble because you say, all right, what do I have to offer? Either of myself or as a service or as a good. If you don't have something of value, you're not going to get anything in return. So again, one of these things is you could handle. 2, possibly 3, getting rough, but it's like we're up to 8 already on like the first 6 points here. And then we're adding in emperors who aren't the greatest. Now, some of these try. We'll have to give them some credit. Some of these guys really do try to make sure that things are okay. They try some reforms, but I'm going to be honest, they don't all necessarily work because, and we're seeing this today, people don't buy into things. They don't want to do these things. And so if the majority doesn't do it, or, enough of a part of your population doesn't do it, that reform isn't going to work. So the first guy's named Diocletian here. Diocletian, rocking the bowl cut. He does not have the beard of wisdom, which is kind of sad for the Romans. No beard of wisdom. But he introduced what's called reforms. I'll remove my picture here. There's a wacky bell again. So reforms are political changes for the best. Now, anytime I think of the word reform, I think of Humpty Dumpty. Now, Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men could not put Humpty together again. So in other words, he's broken. That's the thing. is if you are introducing reforms, whatever you're introducing them of is broken, or it needs some kind of tune-up in some fashion. So in this case, that's what they're doing. They're trying to change things for the better. So the first thing that they try to do is to divide the empire in 4 parts, which would make it more manageable. Divide the empire in 4 parts to make it more manageable. Now, that sounds like it would be okay. So you're going basically northwest, northeast. Oh my gosh, I'm terrible at this. Northwest, southwest, northeast, southeast. There we go, geography teacher. Okay, so it was called your Western Empire. And you can see up top here, where what would be France today, France, Germany, as Constantius the First. Down below here, in the northern part of just above the Alps in Italy, is for Maximian. Down here, and no, that's going all the way down there. But over here in what would be Eastern Europe, up above Greece, yeah, is Galerius. And then home of the Emperor Diocletian is way over here in Byzantium, over by the Black Sea. There's your first problem, is you've got your home empire all the way over here, not even near Rome. He's over here. Byzantium near Nicomedia, and you're going, where in the world is that place? Well, we're going to talk about it here in a little bit. So first of all, look at how far Rome has expanded. There's your big problem, is you have expanded so fast, so quickly, that now to make it manageable, you're splitting it into 4 parts. Now you say, well, that's a good idea. Could be, if all of these guys weren't 8,000 miles away from each other, and that they all did the same thing. There's the problem, is they do things differently. Even though the emperor himself is probably telling them what exactly they should do, they all might have some different ways in which they approach what they are supposed to do. And your people become loyal, or not, to those people who are near them. So divide and conquer can work in terms of government, not so much. There needs to be that head there. So that's part of the problem. Then he also set prices and wages, kind of froze them, if you would, and he ordered workers to stay at their jobs until their death. Well, setting prices and wages isn't so bad, at least setting prices. So that way, it doesn't bounce up. There's not a lot of inflation. But the problem is, it doesn't ever go down. I mean, there might be the opportunity for a price to go down, making it more manageable for people to get things. But if you set it and freeze it, then it can't go anywhere. Freezing wages, that's not good. Because what if, I mean, it's good that you have a constant there for your employment, but the problem is, what if you do a different job? What if you work harder and have more expectations for your job? You don't get a raise. I don't want more responsibilities and then not get more pay. That's not how this thing works. Ordering workers to stay at their jobs until their death, I mean, I don't see a whole lot of good out of this. What if it's an old worker? Do you want a person working at their job until they like literally croak on the job? But also, aren't you going to be less effective at your job as you get older? Now, don't say that about me. But anyways, this isn't necessarily a good thing. So the spirit of the idea is that you keep things constant, which I can understand. But at the same time, you're going, maybe this isn't the best thing. So bottom line, reforms fail, mostly because people ignored the rules. They saw the common sense in this and said, this doesn't sound good. I don't think that we're going to actually do this thing. And so they ignored it. And so there goes Diocletian. Next guy up comes in, Constantine. Love this picture of Constantine. Got his sword there. It says, by this sign you shall conquer. We'll talk about that in a second. Kind of got his arm hung back, a little bit cocky. Yeah, well, here comes Constantine. So Constantine followed in the footsteps of Diocletian in that he too tried some he tried some reforms. Now his first reform, or one of his main ones, was that sons had to follow their father's trades. So in other words, whatever your father did, you did. Now in some cases, it's not a bad thing. I doing the same thing my dad did. My dad was a history teacher, junior high for 35 years. Now I didn't necessarily get into this because of my dad, but I mean, think of you. How many of you would want to do what? And we won't just say your dad. Let's not be sexist there, but what your mom does, your dad does, whoever. Uh, do you want to do what they do? Do you want to be forced to do what they do? No, you want to be able to have your own way and live your own life. So here's the other problem: is if you're forced to do a specific job, how good are you going to do at that job? If I threw you into being okay, if I just said, all right, I'm forced to be a doctor. Some of you, I'm not sure I want to be doctors. I don't know that I want myself to be a doctor either. So there's the problem with that. Do you have people who are inspired to do these jobs? Do you have people who are trained well to do these jobs? Do they want to do them? If they don't, my experience is if people don't want to do it, then they're not going to do a good job at it. So that's a bit of a problem. And he also moved the capital from Rome to Constantinople, which is now Istanbul. There's an old song called Istanbul, it's Constantinople. They Might Be Giants. You should look it up. It's good, fun. But anyways, he moves the capital from Rome to Istanbul, and I'm going to bump it back here to this map real quick, which is basically where we're going, which will be Byzantium. So you're moving the capital of Rome from a little pointer thing right there to here. I mean, that doesn't make sense, does it? You're moving the Roman Empire home of Rome all the way over here to the other side, but yet this is like the OG, this is the original place of Rome, but you're moving the capital over here. So again, these things you're like head scratchers. I don't understand. But one big thing that did make a big change, one big thing that made a big change, historically, is that he is the first Roman emperor to become a Christian. Now, he's not the first emperor to make Rome a Christian empire in place, but he's the first emperor to become a Christian, so kind of like the grandfather of it all. Now, why is this significant? Well, this is important because this carries on to Europe. When we get to Europe in the next section, after our little religion section we're going to do, that's a big focus of their life and their society and their government, and leading into next year with the U.S. and the colonists and the pilgrims is Christianity. And right off the bat, I'll tell you, I'm not going to shove religion down your throats at all, but you have to talk about that element of their society to understand their thinking and why they do certain things. So it really starts back with Constantine, because here's an emperor who becomes the first Christian. It's very close to like a spokesperson for a product. I mean, you're like, I don't know if I like Sprite. Wait, LeBron James likes Sprite, so maybe I should do it too. And I'm not comparing Christianity to that. I'm just saying that the influence of leaders, whether they're political or sports figures, often has an impact on us. So when Constantine does this, it changes society for Rome. First of all, Christians are allowed to practice freely their religion without persecution, meaning without being punished for their beliefs, whether that's physical abuse or mental or verbal, whatever. But you can practice it. And remember, this was a polytheistic society that's now becoming or allowing for monotheistic. That's, your very origins of the First Amendment, the right for religion. And so Rome's saying, okay, you can do that, just don't cause any problems. And so the story of Constantine's important because, as I said, it leads to later things with Rome and with Europe and with America in terms of religion and the freedom of that. Now, his story is a little bit strange. Take it for what it is, with a grain of salt, but he actually became a Christian when he saw a flaming cross in the sky. Now, I wanted to show a flaming cross, but the only things I could find were inappropriate pictures. So this one's from like a video game or something. But he saw a cross in the sky. Now, the story is that he went to battle. He went to fight, and he looked across the river and saw this enemy army was much bigger than his, and he wasn't much of a believer at the time period. And he said, all right, a challenge to God. If there is a God, if you want me to believe, then show me some kind of a sign that you are there. And if we win this battle, then, I will change my life and become a Christian. So according to the story, again, take it with a grain of salt, it's entirely up to you, that he saw a flaming cross in the sky. And so what he had was he had his soldiers paint the cross on their shields, and they marched into battle believing that God would bless them and they would win. And, well, coincidentally, they won. And so this gets Constantine to be a Christian. He gets him to be a believer. So when we get to the Middle Ages and talk about like the Crusades, and you see these crosses on their shields, kind of goes back to this time period as well. So from this period, there is this saying, which is on that statue there, by this sign thou shalt conquer. That's what Constantine believed that God had actually said to him. And so again, this pushes the idea of believers and of Christianity further into Rome. And if Rome's allowing it, then other places will allow it. And so you're getting that snowball effect for Christianity and for religion as a whole. Again, not to focus on just one, to be important in terms of society and affect government, politics, things like that, as they go on. So you might actually have seen this symbol before. This symbol comes from this time period of what that stands for. The first two letters of Christ in Greek, this is the Chi Rho, and you're like, it looks like a P on an X, but remember, this is Greek letters. So challenge, if you do go to church, see if you can find the symbol anywhere. I know that at our church we have it on the altar. You can see it at other places. Sometimes a little cloth that hangs over top the altar, but we have this carved into it. And that's what this is. A lot of times people don't know what it is, and it is a symbol of Christ in Greek. So there you go. Now, as we're going to talk about Latin, it's not another set of notes, but we're going to get to it here soon enough. As we're tearing Rome apart and letting the barbarians in, we're also building up some things that we take from them, like Latin phrases. So these are just some fun ones. Sona si Latin lo quieres means honk if you speak Latin, honk honk. Non sum Pisces, I am not a fish. Pisces, if you know your horoscope symbols. Fact ut vives, get a life. Some of us need to do that, I suppose. And yeah, gets us to our next section. So we'll talk about the barbarians coming your way. So hopefully you enjoyed that. See you later.